What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're out here with my father's John Deere 1023E and my Kubota BX. For any of you that don't know, I have the BX 2370 with the BX 2380 loader. Today we're going to be doing some comparisons of the John Deere versus Kubota BX. One of the comparisons we're going to be doing is a lift comparison, and the other test we're going to be doing is a pull test. So we're going to hook up a chain and let both of these pull and see which one could pull the other. We're going to try it first in high range, then we're going to do low range, and then we may even do four-wheel drive and non-four-wheel drive and go from there. We're also going to be doing a pushing test, so we're going to see which one of these tractors can push the other tractor. Now, as far as the lifting test goes, I have the Artilian pallet fork frame on my tractor, and Artilian was nice enough to let me borrow a pallet fork frame for the John Deere quick attach. So we've got the exact same pallet fork frame on both machines, and they have the exact same weight. As far as the forks go, I'm just going to be reusing my forks for both tractors. So everything is going to be exactly the same as far as, you know, the amount of weight on the loader itself. So that'll make the test nice and even. As far as ballast goes, I've got both of these ballasted out as close as I could possibly get them. And I've also already matched the hydraulic pressures as well on both of these machines. So the stock pressure on my dad's John Deere was 1,900 pounds for the relief valve. So I ended up lowering mine back down to 1,900 pounds as well. So that way both of these tractors are matching for hydraulic relief valve pressure. Stepping around here to the back, you can see the ballast that both of these machines are going to be using today. Over here on the right, my father has a spray tank on this. We've got it filled up with 25 gallons of fluid. Each gallon weighs about 8.3 pounds. So we did the math. This is a total weight of about 207 pounds. So we've got 207 pounds on the rear of this, and both three tires are filled. And going over to my BX, I have removed one suitcase weight for a total of 210 pounds on the back of my hitch. And my back tires are filled as well. Now both these tires are the exact same size, so they will both contain the exact same amount of weight, so there's no issues there. Though I did bring a couple more suitcase weights with me. So my buddy Matt is going to be operating the 1023E. He weighs about 120 pounds more than me. So to counter that weight, I have these two more suitcase weights that I'm gonna be adding to my tractor when we do the push and pull test. That way we can make this as even as possible. So he weighs about 120 pounds more than me, and between these two suitcase weights, that's about 84 pounds. This weight is farther back where he will be farther forward, so I feel like it'll be fair. 84 pounds on the back versus his 120 pounds more on the seat. I'm trying to make this as completely even as possible. That way there's no discrepancies with, you know, one tractor weighing more than the other, and that's why it won or whatever. The only other real difference with these two tractors, obviously besides the brands, is the tires. So on the 1023E, we got some Carlisle tires. These are your typical R4. This tractor's only got about 300 hours on it, so the tread is in really good shape. So these are nice meaty lugs on them. Then going over to the Kubota BX, I have the Carlisle WT300s, as you can see right there. So these tires don't have quite as tall of a lug. They're about a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more lower than the R4 tires. They also don't have the square edges here, so that's gonna lose you a little bit of traction, but they are a little bit easier on the lawn, and that's why I run these. So as far as a tire versus tire comparison, I would have to give it to the R4s for traction. So that's one thing to keep note of. Another thing is the wheelbase is about 2 inches longer on the John Deere than it is on the Kubota BX, and it's also roughly 2 inches wider as well. You can kind of see that as we stand here. Now these aren't dead set perfect, but it is about a 2-inch difference, and the width is about 2 inches wider as well on the John Deere. So that is obviously going to give you a little bit more tractive power, being able to displace that weight across a wider area. So that's something else to keep note of. So the first thing we're going to do here is the lift test. So what we're gonna do is throw on some bricks onto a pallet, which I have over here. There's about 17 bricks on it now. They're full-size cinder blocks, so we'll start with that and see how they lift that, and we'll kind of go from there, see which one of these can lift more. And the last thing I'd like to do with this lift test, since I'm pretty sure the John Deere is gonna edge out the Kubota, what I'd like to do is increase the hydraulic pressure back up just a little bit at a time until we can figure out exactly at what pressure the Kubota BX will match the John Deere at its stock pressure. So that's something I like to do too, just so that you guys know. For those of you who own a Kubota BX and want to, you know, make sure that, say, your lift is exactly the same as a John Deere, you could increase to this hydraulic pressure that I give you today, and you should technically or theoretically be able to lift exactly as much as a John Deere 1 Series. So we're gonna get right to the test here. I'll go ahead and pull these tractors over one at a time, flip this pallet of bricks up, we'll get a measurement on the height, and we'll go to the next tractor and go from there. Okay, so here we are with the Kubota BX. We'll do this one first. As you can see, I've got the pallet forks all the way in as far as they will go. I've got about 17 cinder blocks here, full size. We're gonna go ahead and lift it up, see how high we can get it. Then I'll take a measurement from the ground to the bottom of the pallet with my tape measure and go from there. All right, guys, so as you can see at 1900 PSI, this is all we can get, 17 bricks. Go ahead and take the tape measure. As you can see here, we're about 7 inches exactly off the ground. So the bottom of the pallet is 7 inches off the ground with 17 full-size bricks. So that's at 1900 PSI. Makes a big difference on this tractor. Anything under 2000 PSI, and to me, personally, the thing feels pretty weak. That's why I've always kept my pressure above 2000, and that seemed to be the sweet spot for this machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this pallet off. We'll grab the John Deere, and we'll try that one next. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and remove the pallet forks from my tractor and put them onto the John Deere here. That way we can make sure the weight stays exactly the same and that this is a nice, even, fair test. So I'm gonna do that now and we'll see what the John Deere can lift. All right, guys, so that's quite a big difference. Let me go ahead and grab the tape measure. We'll see what this measures. So we're about, from the bottom of the pallet here, about 31 inches from the bottom. So 31 inches versus 7 inches. So that's a really big difference at the exact same hydraulic pressure. I have to attest a lot of that to the fact that the loader geometry is completely different on the John Deere. If you look when the John Deere has a loader on the ground, the loader is much closer to the tractor than on the Kubota BX. On the BX, the front hinge pins here are much farther out front, which creates a lot more leverage and a lot more work for it to try to lift it. So I attest a lot of the lift strength to that. So now what I want to do is go ahead and put all my shims back in my Kubota BX. I'll get the pressure back to where I had it before. I was at around 2,450 pounds. So I'm going to throw all my shims back in it, and then we're going to test both of these machines again, and we'll see if the John Deere can still outlift a Kubota BX at such a high pressure. I'm thinking they're going to be pretty much the same, because I believe this is about where I lifted the pallet the last time I did a hydraulic pressure increase, which if you guys haven't seen that video, I will link it up here, when I was testing some pressures and doing some lift tests out here. And this was the exact same pallet with the exact same bricks that I used for that test. That's one of the reasons I left it alone, was because I knew at some point I'd be back out here again doing this comparison video with the John Deere versus the BX. Let me go ahead and put my shims back in. We'll get back out here and we'll measure this again with the Kubota BX. All right, guys, we're back out here with the BX. I brought it up to the garage there and increased the pressure back to where I had it before. I tested it. It's at 2,400. So I thought I was at 2,450. It's at 2,400 PSI. It may have been at 2,450 at one point, and it may have dropped a little bit. So 2,400 for relief valve pressure. That's where we're at. We've got the pallet forks back on the BX, and now we're going to lift this up, and we'll see if we can beat 31 inches. Okay, so there we are. That looks a lot more comparable. Get the tape measure out here. And we're at about 31 inches. Maybe a little bit shy of that, but I'm also probably not on the exact same spot on the ground. So, yeah, that's pretty much the exact same. So if you guys, basically, if you have a Kubota BX and you want to have the exact same lifting capabilities as a John Deere, you'd have to turn your pressure up to around 2,400 PSI. That's pretty much the only way you're going to do it. And if you do that, you got to make sure you got enough rear ballast. But obviously, if you're increasing the pressure, you're doing it at your own risk. I've had mine at this pressure, and I've had no problems at all. But, you know, you are going to fatigue the tractor more. You are going to work it harder. You are going to work the front axle harder. You're basically going to be working the whole tractor harder if you increase it. So that's something to be aware of, and something can break. You know what I mean? I've been using it. I haven't had anything break on me yet. But that doesn't mean that you might not increase it and blow a line and hurt somebody or hurt yourself. So definitely do that on your own will, not because I said so. So now we know exactly where these two tractors sit as far as lifting capabilities and what hydraulic pressures they are set at. So now we're going to move on to the pulling and pushing test. I think we're going to do the push test first, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the bucket on both these tractors, and I'm basically just going to stick the Kubota bucket inside of the John Deere bucket because the John Deere bucket is quite a bit bigger, and we're just going to basically push them and see which tractor could push the other. We'll try it in high range first, then low range, and then maybe we'll try it in 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to that test next. Let's get these buckets attached to the tractors, and I'll meet you guys back out here in the yard. All right, guys, here we are. Got the tractors facing one another. I've got the Kubota BX bucket inside of the John Deere bucket. Both of the loader heights are about the same, you know, maybe give or take an inch or so. So it's pretty even. I'm gonna be adding my 2 suitcase weights right here. So we'll go ahead and throw these on the back. And we're doing that so that we can counterbalance our weight differences, because Matt and I found out he weighs about 120 pounds more than me. So this should make them a nice even weight with the difference of both operators in the tractor. We're both gonna start in high gear 2-wheel drive. We're gonna make sure that both the RPMs are maxed out so that they're both even. I'm gonna give him a hand signal when to go. And basically I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. And when he sees my third finger come up, we're both gonna ease into the hydrostatic pedal until it's full throttle and basically see who pushes who and what happens here. Right down? Yep. Yeah, it's a mine did too. So they're completely matched. Yep. All right. So now we're completely matched. So now what we're going to do is we're both going to put them in low gear. We'll see if we just end up spinning or not. If we do, we'll throw it in 4-wheel drive. But I think we'll try the dip lock first, and then we'll do 4-wheel drive. So this is going to be low range, full RPM. Okay, so the BX won that round. Back tires just kept spinning. I think just the one tire was spinning on yours, where mine, neither one of us were using diff lock, and it pushed it really easily. So now let's just try the diff lock, low range, full RPM diff lock. You just keep your foot on the pedal and let it just drop in naturally. We'll see what happens with that. Both your tires are spinning that time. All right, both his tires are spinning that time. I actually could see that one start turning, so your diff lock fell in. You could feel it. Yeah. Mine never even had to go in. Really? So mine never even dropped. So I had good traction. So for whatever reason, I don't know. Let's go ahead and put them in 4-wheel drive. High range is just gonna bog, so let's do 4 low. See what that does. So they're about even. Yeah. He started to push me, but then mine grabbed, and then we both spun. So that was pretty even. We could try to do a diff lock. Yeah. I think they were both spinning, but I don't think it's gonna make much difference. But we'll try diff lock. So we're gonna do the exact same test, 4-wheel drive, low range, but with diff lock, full RPM. All right, so as you guys can see, we were pretty much a dead match. Didn't matter if we did diff lock or not. Both of these in low range, 4-wheel drive, full RPM. They both were about the same. He pushed me just a little bit, and then mine kind of caught traction and pushed them back, and then they just stayed. So I'd have to say they're pretty even as far as 4-wheel drive, low range goes. I think they're both just losing traction, honestly. They both got more power than they could put to the ground. So I think what's happening is they just both spin, they both lose traction, and then they both stay in the same spot. Now, if this was on pavement, like dry pavement, I think we may have different results here, depending on, you know, which machine would push which. But as far as on dirt, I think they just got too much power. Both of them are just spinning, and you know, it's leaving them dead center. So what we're gonna do now, just to make sure the 2-wheel drive test, we're in a fluke. We're gonna spin around. I'm gonna have the Kubota over here and the John Deere on this side. We're gonna do the same test again in 2-wheel drive and in 4-wheel drive, just to see if there's any kind of a difference. All right, guys, we've got them spun around. What we did is we just straddled our tracks. So as you can see, I'm directly in between his tracks, and he's directly in between my tracks. So we're pretty much using the exact same ground that the other tractor was just using. We're gonna start in low range 2-wheel drive with the diff lock. We're just gonna start right with that. Then once we do the 2-wheel drive, we'll do the same thing in 4-wheel drive. So the ground definitely wasn't the issue here. The BX still pushed it, 2-wheel drive, diff lock or no diff lock. BX just walked the John Deere back, no problem. So now what we're gonna do is try both of them in 4-wheel drive like we did before, and we'll see if we have the exact same results as we did when they were switched around. guys, so as you've seen, reversing the sides didn't make much of a difference. In two-wheel drive, whether it was diff lock or not, the Kubota just pushed the John Deere like it was nothing, which really surprised me because the John Deere has the better tires on it. You know, theoretically, these tires are supposed to be more grippier. I mean, they got a taller lug. They got square lugs versus soft round lugs. You know, we got the same amount of weight. It's got a wider wheelbase, and it's a little bit longer as well. So, you know, theoretically, I thought the John Deere was going to push the BX like the BX pushed the John Deere. Now, in four-wheel drive, it was a little bit different story. They were pretty much even, I would have to say, but the John Deere did seem to pull ahead just a little bit, push the Kubota back just a little bit until the Kubota hit some fresh sod, and as soon as it did, they both stopped. But when they were reversed the other way, they seemed pretty much dead even. So I don't know, you guys can make your own decision on what you guys think. But I think maybe the John Deere took it a little bit on the four-wheel drive, but as far as the two-wheel drive goes, the Kubota definitely whooped its butt on that. So now what we're gonna do is turn both of these around. We're gonna get into some fresh tracks here. We're gonna hook a chain, a 1/4-inch chain between the two of them, and we're gonna do a pull test. We'll do the same exact thing. We'll try two-wheel drive first, then we'll maybe do two-wheel drive diff lock. We'll do high range, low range, and then obviously four-wheel drive. So we're gonna get set up for that test, and I'll meet you guys right back here in a few minutes. All right, so we got it all chained up. What I use for the mounts here is I use the ball on the lower hitch mount of the John Deere, and on mine, I've got a little clevis here, exactly where the ball would go. So they're both mounted to the exact same lower portion of the frame. So it should be nice and fair. So now what we're gonna do is start in low gear two-wheel drive with the diff lock. We'll see what happens with that, and then we'll go to four-wheel drive with the diff lock. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so it appears that it's a dead tie in two-wheel drive with the diff lock. Now we're gonna try four-wheel drive with the diff lock, again in low range. Well, it's a dead tie again, so I would say these things, pulling power, pulling wise, I would say we're pretty even. I don't think there's really any need to turn them around because it really didn't make a difference last time anyway. And right now we're at a dead tie, so. All right, guys, well, all in all, I believe that was pretty much a wash as far as the pull test goes. Now we didn't end up spinning them around, but I don't think it would have made a whole lot of difference. Though we did notice after the fact, I do believe it was more wet on this side. Because often I have, you know, this big opening right here and the sun comes down on this area. But over here, I got a lot more trees and it stays shadier over here. And as you could see, the tracks are much deeper here. Like I sank quite a bit. Where if you look over here, he really didn't sink at all. Front tires didn't sink at all. Where my front tires are, you know, especially on the other side, much more sunk. So I believe it is a little bit wetter over here. Kind of see over on this side here how much wetter it looks. You know, compared to over here, doesn't look nearly as bad. So, I mean, we could have spun these around and it might have made a little bit of a difference. Maybe the BX would have pulled it a little bit, but I think as far as pulling goes, it felt really even to me. I was really surprised about pushing. Two-wheel drive with the BX, you know, pushed the John Deere no problem. I was really surprised about that. All in all, I think it was a pretty good day full of testing. I can definitely get my father's John Deere back over here again. So if there's anything you guys can think of that you want to see, you know, these things go head to head against each other with, let me know. Unfortunately, we run out of sunlight today, or maybe we do some more testing with them. Maybe I get his tractor back here again before it snows and we can do some more testing with it. So if there's anything you guys can think of, definitely throw it in the comments below and we'll see if we can get them done for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys had fun playing in the yard with us today. I know we had a lot of fun. Stay tuned with the channel. I plan to hopefully get back out here again with the BX. I did tear out a stump back over here about a month ago, so I'd like to backfill that at some point if the weather holds out. And if not, we'll figure out something else to do. I do have plans for another plow this winter to plow my driveway, so hopefully you guys will see that soon on the channel as well. I'll do like a little review on it and show you guys what it's all about. So I'm kind of excited to use that. But yeah, we're gonna close this video out. Things packed up here. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and as always, we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, so as some bonus footage, we've decided we're gonna race back to the house. So place your bets right now, see which one you think is gonna win.
Here, tell everybody bye. Say see you next time. Tell them.
No.
Say bye.
No.
Say bye.
No.